Alright, welcome back to tutorial number 4. This will now be our ping pong game. The object of this game will have some form of a ball object moving around the screen while we control a ping pong paddle with our mouse pointer on the screen. So, just like every other game, we're going to start by choosing our objects for this. We are going to start off by choosing the ball sprite. So, I'm going to click on choose a new sprite as we have been doing. And I'm going to choose the ball in my case. You may do something else, but this is going to be the object that moves around the screen, like a ping pong ball. So now I have my ping pong ball in my default sprite. As we've been doing in the other games, we're going to go ahead and delete our default sprite by clicking on it, clicking the delete button. And if you choose to do so, we can go ahead and add a backdrop as we've been doing. So I'm just going to go with the blue sky. So we're going to start off with our ball sprite and our background. You can choose whatever you'd like for these. Now we're going to go ahead and start our programming. As usual, we're going to start with a when green flag is clicked. So when the program is started. Next, we are going to do point in direction. It can be found under the motion tab. This is a new one that we haven't been used yet. It's going to tell the ball which direction to point in. So point in direction will go under when green flag is clicked. However, we are going to change 90 down to 45. You can either do that by dragging this clicker, or you can simply just type in the number 45 and then click off of it. So either will work. Next thing we're going to do is grab a forever loop. Those can be found down in the control tab. Inside of our forever loop, we're going to go to the motion tab. We are going to go to the very top one, move 10 steps. That will go inside of our forever loop. However, we're going to change the number of steps to 15 by clicking inside of it and typing in the number 15. Finally, still inside of our motion tab, we may need to scroll down a little bit to find it. We are going to take the if on edge bounce and place it inside of our forever loop under the move 15 steps. What this is going to tell the object to do is to point in a default direction, in this case 45 degrees, which would be somewhere at a 45-degree marker. And then for the rest of the game, it's going to move 15 steps, and all steps are just sort of an in-game logic for how far that is, just an amount of space. And then if it touches the edge of the screen, it's going to bounce off and continue to do that over and over again as long as it's not interfered with. Now, we are going to go ahead and add our paddle, or our ping pong paddle. To do so, we're going to come down here and click Choose a Sprite. And this is going to be something that will be your ping pong paddle, so you probably want something pretty flat. Again, you can do whatever you want, but in my case, I'm going to use button 2 as mine because it's a pretty flat object that looks like something that could be used as a paddle. Place it down towards the bottom of the screen. It doesn't really matter where it goes because it will be moving with your mouse. Now, make sure that we have the object selected, the new object down here that's going to be our ping pong paddle. In my case, it's button 2. We should have a fresh set of no programming in here. It should be all empty. To start, we're going to go over to the Events tab. When green flag is clicked, as usual, bring it on in here. We are then going to go down to the Control tab and take a forever loop and drag it under the when green flag is clicked. So you should only have 2 sets of programming so far on this. Now, we need the ping pong paddle to follow our mouse around on the screen. So, in order to do that, we are going to go to random position and change it to the mouse pointer. So if I push play now, the paddle is going to follow around with my mouse in here. Again, if you hit the ball, it shouldn't do anything yet because we haven't programmed it to do so. I'll push the stop button, and then I'll just move this back wherever. It doesn't really matter, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to leave it placed in here. So this is all we should have so far for our ping pong paddle, or in my case, button 2 object. Next, we are going to go back to our ball sprite. So make sure that we click on our ball sprite down here, and we should have this first set of programming. So make sure that your programming looks like this. You don't want to place this block of programming inside of the ping pong paddle programming, because that would mess some things up. So we are going to go ahead and create a score variable again, like we've done in the last 3 tutorials. To do so, we're going to go to the Variables tab, make a variable again, just like we've been doing, and name it score again. We'll keep it for all sprites, and then we will just go ahead and click OK. Now, we're going to go ahead and start a new block of programming in here. So we need this code in order for the ball to bounce off the paddle instead of just going right through it. To do that, we're going to start in the Events tab with a when green flag is clicked. And this again will be separate from our first block of programming, so you can put it anywhere in this box as long as it's not touching this first set. We are going to go down to our Variables tab, set my variable to 0, and change my variable to score again. That way, when we restart the game, every time it's going to reset our score up here to 0. Now, we're going to go ahead and grab a forever loop inside of the Control tab and place it underneath the set score to 0. Inside of our forever loop, we now need an if blank then statement, like we've been doing in previous tutorials. So if blank then will now go inside of our forever loop. Make sure it's not underneath. You'll want to make sure that it is inside, so this will repeat for the majority of the game. Now, we're going to go to the Sensing tab. We want touching mouse pointer. That will go between the if and the then inside of here. However, we don't want it to be touching the mouse pointer. We want it to be touching whatever our paddle is. In my case, mine is named button 2. So I'm going to click the drop down and make sure that I select button 2. So what this is saying is it's going to be setting an event for when the ball comes in contact with our ping pong paddle, and that's what we're going to program inside of here. So when it comes in contact with the ping pong paddle, we're going to go to variable again, and we're going to change my variable by 1, and we're going to change that to score. So this way, every time that the ball touches a ping pong paddle, your score is going to increase by 1 point. Next, we're going to go back up to the Motion tab again, and we are going to go turn 15 degrees. I'm going to select the top one. It doesn't matter which one you select because we're going to do 180 degrees, which is a half turn. So it won't matter which one you select here. Don't get worried about that. And we're going to place that underneath the change score by 1, but inside of our if-then statement. We're then going to click inside of the 15 degrees and change it to 180 degrees. That way, each time it comes in contact with it, the ball is going to spin around 1/2 turn and then continue on the other way. We don't want it to just keep going the same way again, otherwise it wouldn't bounce off of it. We are then going to take the move 10 steps, place it under the turn 180 degrees, but still inside the if-then statement, and we're going to change 10 steps to 15 steps, just to make it go a little bit farther, a little bit faster. Lastly, for this block of programming, we need it to wait a certain amount of time. So we're going to go down to the Control tab, take the wait 1 second, put it under the move 15 steps, still inside of our if-then statement, and we're going to change the 1 second by clicking inside of it and changing it to 0.5. So that's going to tell it to wait for 1/2 second. So the period button and then the 5 button, which will make it wait for 1/2 second. What that's going to do is make sure that when the ball comes in contact with the paddle, it's not just going to continue to increase your score, it's just going to bounce off and then it can increase it again. But you don't want it to just get stuck in the paddle and continue to increase your score. So now we're going to add another set of programming in here, and this is going to be for our other object. So in my case, it's going to be the button 2. So make sure I go back to this mostly empty screen that only has a small amount of programming here. Make sure that your ping pong paddle is selected down over here. We're going to take a new when green flag is clicked out of the events tab and drag it anywhere in the side of this programming box that is not touching this up here. We are then going to take a forever loop inside of the control tab, place that under our when green flag is clicked. We are then going to take an if blank then statement. That's going to go inside of our forever loop. We are now going to go to the sensing tab, touching mouse pointer. That's going to go between the if and the then and the if then statement. But instead of touching the mouse pointer, we want it to be touching whatever our ball object is. In my case, it's just named ball, so I'll select it, which corresponds to the name of your object down here. Yours may say baseball or something different if you chose a different ball object. If you're doing the same thing as mine, then it's just going to be named ball. So if touching ball, then we want it to stop everything. So in order to stop everything, we want to stop all. So we're going to go into the control tab. At the very bottom here, it says stop all, and that's going to go inside of our if then statement. So as long as your programming looks like this, you should be ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click the start button. Make sure that this ball bounces off, and you see in the top left corner that my score is increasing each time, and that's what we want. So with that being said, that's all for this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next one.